In this video, we will discuss about nomenclature of carbon compounds. All of us have names that denote our identity, like Rishi, Akhil, Sita, Lata, Ayush, etc. We all have our names, right? So like the same, chemical compounds also have some specific names. So now let's see how chemical compounds are named. So the method of providing names to chemical compounds is called nomenclature. So the process of giving names to chemical compounds is called nomenclature. The names of compounds in a homologous series are based on the basic carbon chain modified by prefix or a suffix. So if we want to name a compound present in the homologous series, the basic thing that we need to do is to modify either a prefix or a suffix in the carbon chain. But now, what is a prefix and what is a suffix? So, something that is present before the phrase is called a prefix, and the thing that is present after the phrase is called suffix. Naming the carbon compound is done by the following method. Now, let us see what that method is. Identify the number of carbons in the compound. For an example, a compound having 3 carbons would have the name propane. So earlier we discussed that prop means it has 3 carbons in it. So first of all, identify the number of carbons present in that compound. Count the number of carbons. So if that particular compound has 2, then it would be ethane. If it has 3 carbons, then it would be propane. So this is one thing. So before we go to the next one, let us see what a functional group is. This is an additional point, but we have already discussed it earlier. So an atom or a group of atoms which makes the carbon compound reactive and decides its properties is called a functional group. So we already discussed what's a functional group. Functional group is nothing but it is a particular group that replaces one of the hydrogen present on the carbon and attaches itself to the carbon compound. So this particular functional group will make the compound reactive and also renders some particular properties to the particular chemical compound. So now, if in case a carbon compound contains a functional group, then the indicated compound will be the name in the suffix or prefix. For an example, there is a functional group in a particular carbon compound. So the name of the compound will be included with the name of the functional group, either in the prefix, that is before the phrase, or in the suffix, that is after the phrase. Let us look at some examples. Now, here we can see some of the functional groups, that is the halogen, alcohol, aldehyde, ketone, carboxylic acid, double bonds like alkenes, and triple bonds like alkynes. So now, let us see the prefix. So if it's a halogen, then it would be obviously chlorine, bromine, fluorine, iodine. So now let's just check out chlorine and bromine. So we just say the prefix as chloro, bromo. So when we name a compound, so for example now here, chlorine is a heteroatom that replaced one of the hydrogen that is attached to this carbon and took the place of the hydrogen. So this chlorine is a heteroatom. Now, since this chlorine is attached to this particular compound, it is 1, 2, 3. So 3 carbons are there, so it's obviously propane. But now since as the halogen is attached, we have to give it a prefix. If it's a chlorine, then we say chloro. If it's bromine, we say bromo. Since it's chlorine, we say chloropropane. All are single bonds, so it's propane. It's an alkane. It's a saturated one. So 3 carbons, so it's prop. So if it's a halogen functional group, then you have to say chloro or bromo as the prefix. So since it's chlorine, you have to say chloropropane. Chloropropane. So if it's bromopropane, if it's bromine, you have to say bromopropane because there are 3 carbons. So now let's look at the functional group alcohol. So whenever there is a functional group alcohol, you say ol. Ol as a suffix. Suffix means you'll end it at the end of the name. So prefix means, see, you're adding chloro beginning. That is before propane, you're adding chloro. That is before the phrase. So it is the suffix. But now in alcohols, you're adding the name as a suffix that is after the phrase. So it is 1, 2, 3. Since 3 carbons are present, it is prop, and OH is the functional group, that is alcohol. So you have to add it at the suffix that is after the phrase. So it's propanol. All is the suffix that you have to use when the functional group is alcohol. So you use it as propanol, OL, all. Now, what if it's an aldehyde? So the suffix, that is, it is also used after the phrase, and that is al, al. So you have to be careful with both of them. It is OL and this is al. So the pronunciation is a little bit similar, but you have to differentiate. So it's aldehyde, the suffix is al, al. So it's propanol, propanol, al, ol. This is ol, this is al. So it's propanol because propanol, propanol. So this is propanol. So the functional group is CHO. As we discussed in the previous video, the functional group of aldehyde is C double bond O single bond H. That is CHO group. So here you just say 1, 2, 3. So since 3 carbons are present, it's prop, and it's an aldehyde. So you have to add Al at the ending. Propanol. Now let's go with ketone. It's again the suffix, that is one. O-N-E is the suffix. So we know the functional group of ketone, that is C double bond O. This is the functional group of ketone, and you say propanone. Propanone. Why prop? 3 carbons are present. None is the suffix of a ketone. Since a ketone functional group is present, you say it's propanone. Non, propanone. Now carboxylic acid. If the functional group is carboxylic acid, then the suffix is oic acid. So it's acid, so acid. It's oic acid. So the functional group is C double bond O single bond OH. It is COOH. So COOH is the functional group. So since 3 carbons are there, again you say it's prope, and suffix is oic acid. So you have to say propanoic acid. Propanoic acid. Now what if it's an alkene? It's a double bond obviously. So very simple. If it's a single bond, you're saying it's ane because it's alkane. Now it's a double bond, you have to say ene because it's alkene. So it's a double bond. So you can say double bond and 3 carbons. So it's propene. Now what if it's a triple bond? The suffix is ine because it's alkyne. So 3, that is a triple bond. So there are 3 carbons and you say it's propyne. So I hope it's clear. This is how you name the carbon compounds. So, if the name of the functional group has to be given as a suffix, then the carbon chain should be changed by removing the final E and replacing it by adding the appropriate suffix. So, let's understand it clear in detail by taking an example. For example, if it's propane, so the ending letter is E. Now, if we consider that there is a ketone group, the functional group, then you have to add the suffix on. So it's very simple. Just remove the last letter E and add on. You'll get propanone. So the only thing you have to do is to remove the final E and replace it by adding the appropriate suffix of the functional group. If the carbon chain is unsaturated, then the final ane in the name should be substituted with ene. So ene, why? Because it's an alkene. There's a double bond. And if there is a triple bond, you have to replace it with ine because it's an alkyne. Example, a 3 carbon chain with double bond is called propene because 3 carbons, it's called prop. But there is a double bond, so you call it ene because it's alkene, so it's propene. And if there is a triple bond, it is called propyne because triple bond means it's alkyne. So since there are 3 carbons, it is propyne because triple bond is there. So this is how you actually name the compounds. Thank you.